Hello, I'm John Joe. Welcome to Line War. Today we have a free-for-all featuring Gonya, Barracuda, myself, Daseabneren, yep, and Paul. So, Gonya is starting over here. If I turn the fog of war off, we can see everyone. We've got Gonya over there. I have started over here with just 3 territories by the looks of things. Yeah, I literally just took 3. I should have got 4, I think. Oh well. So we got Gonya there, John Joe, myself here. Daz is over here, Barracuda down in this section, and Paul up in the top here. Paul's gone pretty much factories to start with, and then 2 barracks there. Yet to set their commands, they're just doing that now. Barracuda's going for a little bit of eco. Okay, some extra eco over here and 1 factory to start with. Daz is going for some airfields with bombers right away with a town and 2 factories. Not a bad position or plan for the situation that he's in there, where he's situated his main base. Over here, Gonya has gone for a town, 2 barracks and a factory to begin, and is spreading out in a fairly sort of star-shaped shape. And I, in the corner here, have gone for an airfield, a town and docks, 1 factory for Sam, and an infantry rush other than that. So this is how the game is going to start. Some players keeping some cash over, as we can see here from Gonya. Barracuda has a little bit of cash. I have probably none. I've got a bit. It's growing. Daz has a little bit of money left over, and Paul has nothing. So Paul has pretty much spent everything he's got over here, getting some extra barracks on the ground. And it looks like they're going for some sand. They've got a line here ready for the sand to come out. But I'm just going to speed it up to some engagements as we watch the territories expand. It looks like Daz and Gonya have spotted each other at this point in the game, both of which opting to go into a defense. As you can see, some of the commands aren't accurate, so I'm going to have to try and guess when they're not going to comply with what we expect. Because this should be a black line. As you can see, he's built a defense there, just like Gonya's black line there, where he's actually built some fortification. So sometimes in the replays, these commands aren't always accurate. I have the fog of war off, and I have everyone's commands visible, so we should be able to see exactly what's going on. We've got a bit of navy going on over here from Barracuda, who's going straight for this energy well over here. This could be a problem for Daz, as he's quite close to the water. He's also going for some navy units, mostly transports by the looks of it. Potentially to get round some fortifications. I was going to say barrications then. Fortifications. But definitely getting some energy over here, which is going to be contested very soon. Speed it up just a little bit more. My units are slowly coming out of this section of the map, and I forget when you're in ×4, zooming in and out goes really fast. There we go. So we do have my units and Gonya's units over here about to collide. Daz is sending a transport boat up over here to try and get this eco. I think he's going to be surprised by Paul over there, so we'll have to see how that goes. Over in the bottom here, I've got some units. Gonya is going for some defense, building fortifications in the mountains, which will be a boost for him, so I probably shouldn't attack that. I don't know if I do or not. Gonya's going for an extra layer of defense, as Paul is dealing with Daz's infantry that are coming in. I think, well, I thought Paul would have won that, as they both had 4 each, and he might have been able to catch him there, but he didn't. So I think Daz is going to actually win that one, and he definitely will when his next boat goes through. He actually doesn't have any units there. Okay. So that 1 single unit there is going to be able to capture some land. It's going to stop Paul from expanding for a little bit. But these units... Oh, actually, there's 2 units there I didn't spot. So these units are going to come through. They'll probably take them out, to be fair. However, Daz is supported with air units, so he could defend in that location up there. I, on the other hand, did not go for the defense here. I decided to go and attack somewhere else where he had built defense in the forest. But at least my units are boosted there. But I have a problem. The enemy has artillery and helicopters. My units are not going to be very good against that, but I did have a factory built. I also have an interceptor and some strikers to help against any issues I may have. As this is a free-for-all, you really need to keep your units diverse. There we go. As I said, if they do attack over here and start winning, the bombers will probably come in to support this area. Barracuda is having an engagement with Paul. Paul is flooding his units into this area. Unfortunately, they're being slowed by the mountain here. But they are putting on some pressure there. I don't know if they're going to break through that. They do probably have enough units there to destroy these fortifications. And Barracuda's opting for a lot of anti-air, or he's expecting to build up some. He's got some setups there, there, and there. So he should be fine from Daz if Daz doesn't start taking out his anti-air over there. Over in this section, my air units are doing a good job at taking out what's there. I do spot these SAMs, and I should have some time with them. My interceptor is doing a good job against the helicopter, but I don't think it's going to take it out. I call off my units because of those SAM in the area there. Over on this side, it looks like Daz took off infantry from this defense line, and he's sending those forward. So these artillery will remain there. Down in the south, we have a section where Daz is coming through this little choke point here, just as I am as well. So it looks like I'm going to be fighting on 2 fronts. Daz is deciding to fight on 3 fronts. He doesn't have to take this area. He could just let him and Gonya fight that out. But he's just trying to expand and see where it goes through. Paul has taken out the defense in this section of the map. And the helicopters have come in to help in defense of this location. Now, Barracuda does have enough in the area to be able to support in the defense here, but there is quite a few units. If Paul just focused on an attack here, he might have better chances, but he's got some artillery going through this section. It might have been better just to send a couple of infantry if you wanted to, and keep the artillery on the front lines, but then with the helicopters there, you might want to wait for some SAM. I don't know. What do you guys think? Those bombers are doing a great job at tearing up the map there where they need support. So it is keeping Daz safe for a little while. Right now, he's got me to deal with in this corner. I have spotted what is coming, and I have some air units on the way. As I said, the commands don't always represent. That is not an air unit, but you can see my units are going there. Over in this section, just in case of the helicopters, I have got some SAM here. And we are taking over this map. I'm trying to keep my units in the forest there. Over in this section, I can hear some gunfire. The helicopters are now supporting against Daz. Daz is moving in with the artillery. Noticing these infantry on the front line, he's just trying to outrange them. Which will do very good, and will pretty much get all of them if Gonya doesn't try and either rush forward or retreat. Now Paul has decided just to defend this location. He just wants to hold him off. Make sure he can stay there and defend. Over in this section of the map, it looks like Barracuda has repelled Paul's attack, but he is getting prepared for a second wave coming in right now. Over on this side, I'm putting up the pressure with a lot of infantry that are keeping my artillery safe as they're pushing through against Gonya. Gonya's also got some SAM now, so it's going to be a bit of a struggle to keep them going. Keep the air units going that way, and my infantry are moving in. I did lose the battle initially, but I had my air units come in and clear out the rest, except for this one lone soldier who is going to get killed by these guys. Daz is still trying to focus on fighting in 3 directions at the minute, but he's just trying to expand into this location, keeping a city there. But as the battle intensified with Gonya, the artillery don't want to move in through the forest until the bombers have moved in and seen or destroyed what's there. Paul is not too hyper focused on the attack here. He is just trying to expand out and get his eco up. I would like to see the difference in economy from Paul, who is currently getting 670 per minute, and Barracuda, who is getting 775. So it looks like the eco boost he's getting from these industries, towns and docks is actually doing really well for him. Paul looks like he's moving up against... No, it's Daz actually moving towards Paul, who's going to get taken out by all those artillery there. Over in this direction, I am moving my infantry through this section over here to try and take over the territory, which luckily for me is relatively undefended. However, these bombers are tearing up some of the map for Gonya, and they probably will be able to take out this airfield. There isn't actually that much there for them to waste their ammo on, and even if they don't, the forces are moving in through this direction. And Gonya right now is focused on me and has decided to build an airfield here to try and deal with, well, my base, hopefully take out some production for him. I, on the other hand, have an airstrip to try and just expand my reach. But he has got some energy saved up all the way at the back here, which is not that bad. It's a good idea, but he's got some units here, which is sending to this defense line. He could be trying to take over these territories here, which he still hasn't managed to acquire yet. Those bombers do take out the airfield. My artillery are moving in now, but without the backup for some infantry, they are going to be a bit vulnerable. There is a few there, though. So we'll just see how that progresses in a bit. As we do, move across over here. Paul has set up not a defensive line, a formation line just over here, which is going to be attacked by some helicopters any second. As you can see, they are moving in, and he's trying to set up some in the mountains here as well, just in case some units come through. But without any anti-air, which he's got one moving in here, he's going to struggle against these helicopters. And with the amount of what he's got, he should have some interceptors. He does. He's got a good option there to just bring in those interceptors and take out these helicopters. The problem being is there are SAM backed here, and helicopters can just fly over and hover, whereas interceptors are going to fly around and keep sort of orbiting the attack area, where it's going to end up in the reach of these SAMs. Daz is now pushing through Gonya's base through the top in the forest section over here, whereas I am actually managing to push Gonya back a little bit, and he is now focusing on his defense right up to his base, so he can't really retreat anywhere right now. On the other side of it, I do have quite a few infantry units pushing through in this section. Daz has just spotted this, and I can imagine he's going to respond with these air units, because I do remember that he did so. Over on this side, I send some air units over there. I changed this to a blue line because they start attacking these, and I don't want that to happen. Kind of wanted to take out that economy. We do have a lot of bombers coming in over here. They're going to make short work of my units in that direction. Over here, it looks like Barracuda is putting the pressure against Paul, and Paul has retreated to the mountains over here. But he's kept Sam into this section of the formation line, but you probably should keep them back. As you can see, we've got a circle here of SAM units for Barracuda, who his artillery is going to fire forward. They're a bit on the front right now, but they're safe. So he's going to have the artillery move forward. The SAM are going to stay behind. So they're going to be safe on the attacks. Unfortunately for Daz, he hasn't managed to keep this section, as he's been sandwiched between Paul and Gonya. And unfortunately for Gonya, he's having the same thing with me and Daz right now. I did end up retreating though. I can see his units moving backwards, so I either assumed that he was being attacked, or I just needed to build up some of my units. I've left my SAM on the front line, avoiding my own advice. And my air units have spotted the airfield there, and they're going to take that on themselves. While I wait for my units to build up, I took out the defense over here. See if I can just get some damage up. Keep up some pressure for him. Over here, it looks like Barracuda is doing a great job at building up his eco. He has a city now. So let's have a look at how much he's got coming in. 778. Gonya has 600. I have 700 as well. Another 600 for Daz, and for Paul, he's on 670. So everyone's got a pretty balanced eco. And Barracuda is going to be able to expand through this section of the map and probably take it over pretty quickly, unless Paul does something about this attack. It's a lot of artillery on the front line, backed up with helicopters and SAM. Over here, I think Daz's units collided with Gonya, but ended up retreating towards this section. I think Daz really wants this city over here. And he does have a town himself. He could start building up the industry over here and here, and end up having a bit of a city going on there. Currently, the Navy is just pretty much there to stop any air units by the looks of it. There isn't really any other purpose for them, but we do have a cruiser in the mix over in here. As Barracuda's forces are moving through, they are grabbing some land, and they're focused on the front line here. To be fair, having the artillery go through the mountains is always a good idea. Even though they move even slower, it means your opponents are moving slower, taking extra damage from their range. So he brought some units down over there, and I've got my strikers to come in and take out any units left over in that section. I try and send my units through in this direction against Daz, but every time I do, I get absolutely destroyed by all these bombers, so I knew I needed interceptors to take them out. But it was just building them up with the eco against Gonya at the time. If I could just expand over here, maybe I could do that later, is what was probably going through my mind at the time. Paul over here is now moving down and is going to end up conflicting with Daz once again. But this time Daz is going to hold up a little bit better. And Paul is streaming his units in one at a time. And they are being taken out as they move through. But we do have a lot of anti-air over here. So we've got some SAM and some interceptors taking on these helicopters. The SAM probably won't last. But as the interceptors are further away from these SAM units here, the interceptors are further away. The SAM are just being moved in now anyway, so they're probably going to end up taking out the interceptors. But another helicopter does go down. We're left with only 2 helicopters here. And the artillery are slowly making their way through the mountains. But as you can see, Paul doesn't actually change his strategy. He just leads his units in one by one, which is giving Barracuda a bit of an advantage there. You need to kind of build them up. Kind of like how I had to bring my forces back into the forest just to send them back through in a bit. Gonya moved his SAM units over to this side, which is actually quite smart. Knowing that my air units were coming in from this direction, he can keep them safe across this water and in a much better position to take them out. And even if I did move up through this direction instead, you could just move them just a little bit to bring him back to defend. Over here, Paul is struggling a bit against Barracuda, still doing the same, bringing them through. Daz is now taking his units out up in this section against the city. But Daz may actually have enough units to take out this section and leave Paul quite vulnerable from this direction too. But I don't think Daz is going to go further from there. He just wants that city. Daz has his bombers moving out to this location here to take out the army, which is threatening his base right now. Gonya does have a good force right up against Daz's front line there. Bombers are probably going to take care of this area pretty quickly. And I have a couple of artillery going through the mountains here, capturing some territories for me. And quite a few artillery moving in through the base over here instead. On the bottom over here though, I have set up some infantry defenses. There isn't really much else I can do here without investing too much. I want to get rid of Gonya. I know taking out this section is not too much for me, because there's a lot of bombers that can come in and defend it. Over here, Daz is opting to build the city here as well, and will soon occupy this one over here, so he might be able to boost his economy pretty fast. Barracuda looks like he's building up some transport boats. He knows he's probably going to need it in a little bit. And he's got some cruisers up. It looks like he's just going to cross this section here. As you can see, he's got some units being built up. Not too many. Not just yet. I think they were just from expanding. But he does have his boats moving this direction. Or at least anything other than transports. So Daz has taken over this section. He's got one unit to deal with there. And it looks like he's got an infantry defense set up there, so they're just going to rush off and make that defense. Purple's interceptors come in and quickly take out those helicopters once again. There are 4 more coming in, and those interceptors are going to go home again. But the SAM are doing a really good job at taking them out. Gonya's forces were definitely destroyed by these bombers over here, and now Gonya is under a lot of pressure. I'm breaking through his defenses over here, trying to destroy these structures right now. We have a few heading straight for his air force, and now also Daz is pushing in from behind. He's only got 2 infantry production here, trying to push in through here and defend this location as he builds 2 more factories just behind this town. On the other hand, I do have this defense over here as he brings his air force in. I have just moved my infantry out the way. which I don't know if that's actually lucky just yet, but I did have a structure here producing SAM ready for this to happen, just not quick enough. So his bombers are probably going to destroy that location. But I did try and get my infantry out of there pretty quick. I think that was just a bit more luck than anything else. As Barracuda is slowly making his way up north through the mountains, he is making some good progress here. Especially being artillery. These SAM units are quite vulnerable though, and he's going to have to move them soon. May have invested a bit too much in anti-air, but there were the bombers threats here, so it's just as likely that he could have needed them. My strikers are now moving in to take out the energy that will shut down his air units, or at least I thought. I didn't know he had an energy depot up here, so that will actually help keep his air units running for a little bit longer. That'll keep 120 in the bank for him, but it won't produce anything for him. There we go. Over here we have only infantry, so the infantry going in here are probably going to die pretty quickly. But the one artillery here is going to do a lot of damage because they're not going to be able to reach him. Unless he deletes the defensive line and sends them on their way to kill that artillery. Now what's going on down here? We don't have too much. He did manage to destroy all of my infantry here. But I actually didn't realize that I still owned this area. I could have built something here. Alright, so what's going on up in the north right now? Barracuda is still pushing against Paul. The interceptors keep flying over and trying to take out these helicopters, but are eventually shot down by these SAM units. And this will eventually... Oh, there we go. Gonya has left the match. So as you can see, Gonya's just gone. So, see you later, Gonya. And my forces will be able to try and take it on. I do notice that Daz is over here. So I do just send him on a quick attack around that direction to make sure I have control over the areas that's important. I can take over this area later with a few less units. I have some SAM in defense mode here. Daz also knows that Gonya's gone. So he's going to be able to try and push through and do exactly what I'm trying to do. It looks like Paul has managed to fend off the attacks on this side of the engagement and is slowly depreciating the land units here. Over on this section, it looks like Daz is ready to defend his energy well. But I think Barracuda has a lot more units than he does, especially at the ocean. So we'll have to wait and see how that one works out. Those bombers are en route. It looks like they're going to scout my base. So they're going straight down here, straight through my army over there. And they're going to end up at this location here if they continue that path. And for some reason I got some units just going in there on their own. Just having a quick look at these artillery pieces. But I pull them back. So these circle commands are taken over because they're blue lines. So they're taking priority. This is so I can just leave these lines up and running because I'm too lazy to redraw them. But they will build up in numbers here, and then I could just double click it and then delete it, and they'll be on their way again. Over here, the bombers are tearing up my army over here. Even though Daz has less on the ground, these bombers are going to change that pretty quickly, unfortunately. A lot of my SAM units are over here because he kept sending them over in that direction. So I didn't have too much in the way of SAM or anti-air to deal with that. Over in this direction, Barracuda is opting for a bit of a defense on the right hand side. And over here is trying to sneak some units around the side. And these infantry units, if they were to continue this way, are going to probably catch off at least one factory and maybe even put pressure in this direction. And as I said, Daz just wanted to control this area of the map. He's got some artillery on the ground here with defense, just to catch off some strays if needs be. So now those bombers have been sent out for quite a while now, and they are ending up at right here attacking my main entrance to my main location, should I say. So I do start sending out more forces this way. And I have some units just going around here and having a bit of an exploration. But I probably should have sent a lot more units out to grab some of these territories at this point, especially infantry. Over here, Paul seems to have noticed that there's a few infantry units coming in from this direction, and he is ready to deal with them right now. Having some units on the move. So at this point, me and Daz are just still trying to expand and trying to conquer this part of the map. I'm trying to avoid his bombers. So I probably should have... I start building a lot more SAM units. And I'm trying to catch something off guard here. I can see this is under construction. So I start sending out some air units to try and take that out. He does have some SAM there though, but luckily for me, there isn't as much here than there is here. But he also has his bombers coming in once again. One's just randomly turned around. Have a look at his point of view. So has he run out of energy? No. Oh, he's built an airfield, I see. An airstrip. So they were just moving into a better position. Over there, it looks like the battle's staying the same at this moment. So Barracuda is stuck trying to rebuild his forces right now. My air force managing to take out the docks, leaves the town up and running for now. Are they going to actually take that out? Yep, they do manage to take it out. Unfortunately, they didn't target any of the SAM, but they did manage to stop that from happening. Daz's response is to send in some bombers, which he has a lot more than I do. And they're coming in straight through this direction here, but now I do have a bit more of a defense here. So I'll have to see if that helps. Also, I decided to go for a navy, but, you know, just in this little lake here. Because I didn't want a navy in the big ocean, because there's probably already one there, and I don't have reach there. Or at least, so I thought. I do have reach there, because someone else uses it against me later. I just completely forgot, or didn't realise, this section of the map could be used. So over here, I do have a bit of a rush into this defensive line. And the infantry are able to take that out, but Daz has spotted this right now. His bombers are coming in through this direction right now, and we have my SAM units trying to fend them off as best they can. But it looks like there's quite a few bombers. One goes down there, another one's going down here, so I am doing a good job taking them out. But look at my SAM, they are absolutely battered on the ground here. Most of them nearing death, so if he'd left them in there a little longer, he might have got some extra damage, but I don't know if that would be worth it. He already lost quite a few on that attack there alone. Paul is expanding his defense around Barracuda over there, so he's got a pretty good sense of what to do here. And Barracuda's single artillery is moving forward like that. I'm going to end up getting sniped. Luckily, he manages to save that one. And he's brought back the defense of this section into this choke point here, which is a good idea. Having the mountains there are going to slow down the enemy, increasing your defense of the mountains. That is like the perfect location to defend, except for, you know, the navy. But luckily, no one's going to have a navy in that section. Which is probably what Daz thought about this area, but, you know, stuff happens. Right, now I can see some artillery moving down the map here, and I've got some infantry just pretty much trying to stop them from moving. And now I do finally have a group of units heading through this section, grabbing some extra territory for me. But let's have a quick look through the eco. So, Barracuda is Bravo, so we'll start with him. He is struggling with his eco, but he does have 1,048. I have 818, but I am still kind of stuck in this corner. It may look like I have a large portion of the map. To be fair, actually, I do kind of have a bit of a large portion of the map. And who's next? Daz is next. So Daz has 991. That's because he's got a large portion and a city, and he does control this area, but he hasn't got a city yet. And Paul is seriously struggling. He's got 550 in economy, but he has been sort of trapped in this section of the map. Daz pushed him out of this area. Barracuda is pushing up through the north. And it looks like Daz is going out for a bit of a scout over here. Why one of my... Oh, that's not mine. So an interceptor's getting taken out from Barracuda by Daz. And one more. It looks like it does manage to make it out of that section alive. But now that Barracuda has spotted that there's a navy over there, Barracuda's on the move. This is just pretty much to protect his city. If that city goes down, it's going to be a bit of a problem for him. So at this point in the game, I think Daz spots it. He's trying to protect his energy well. And Paul has decided to delete the defense. He's pushed his units through, and this was a bit too early for him. And his units are not going to be able to break the defense Barracudas in that section. Not this section either. There's just not enough there. So he's pulling back. He's setting up a defensive line in both sections. Over here, I'm just stopping Daz from getting through in any location. Down in the south here as well. His bombers do come in to stop me, so I've got some interceptors there to stop them bombers, or try and get them bombers back out. Over here, it looks like we got a bit of a navy move. Some anti-airs coming down to this section as a cruiser is pushing through. We've got a group of cruisers here. We've got 5. So he's setting up a line command to better attack this location here. And Daz is pretty much in the middle of the match right now. He's defending from Paul in this location. Luckily, there's nothing really going on there, but he does have a front with him. Barracuda's got a large navy, and he's going straight for Daz. And me, I'm just trying to control him and keep him back so I can build up my units a bit more. My strikers are trying to deal with anything on the ground I see, and my interceptors are coming to this location to defend from the air. Now we see a group of tanks from Barracuda, and I can imagine they're going to go for Paul's structures soon. Now we have a front line of cruisers right here, and they're facing off against Daz's units. And both players can probably see what's going on there. It looks like Barracuda's on the move. We've got some Navy units going off right now. We have them backed up by missile ships, which will stop the air units from being able to do as much damage as they'd like to. But I think Daz at this point is forced to do this because his other energy well is right here. These cruisers will be able to reach that and destroy it as well, which will leave Daz without an air force anyway, because they wouldn't be able to run off 2 power plants. Over in this section, I am rushing my infantry through. I do have some SAM that are going to follow, but not much else right now. And I do have some missile ships of my own, which Daz is going to have to deal with soon. The energy well does go down. That reduces Daz's energy income by, I'm not sure, about half, just under half, because of the power plants. I don't think he has energy anywhere else. No, but he is building up some extra eco in this part there. Both players, Paul and Barracuda, are holding off, just holding up a defense. I think this is so Barracuda can focus on Daz right now and do as much damage as they can to him. Me, on the other hand, I'm just expanding, or trying to expand a bit faster, and I do have a group of units right up at the top here. Though they did miss a few territories. I'm not even sure why. So they're up here in the north now, and they are managing to take over some territories for me, and I think my plan was to place some structures and try and expand across this section here. Over here, my navy force is now attacking Daz. They're going for the town there, and I'm going to definitely go for that one up there afterwards. But as I said, Barracuda's going to go for the energy well of Daz, and has taken out this section of the map here. He's going to go probably find these navy yards, but if he doesn't, then Daz is going to be able to push back and take him out to this choke point as well, gaining back his energy well. But he has to do that now with 2 power plants. 1 power plant, as the commandos are streaming through in this location, taking out Daz's power plants, airfields, industry, and potentially even that city just there. And Daz is trying to make a push against me, but I do have my units over here, and they are spreading out around his forces, so I think Daz is going to struggle in that location. I do have an air force as well, which are going to be able to help me defend there. My missile ships are going for the other town, This is just bad timing for Daz. I remember him writing while we were playing this game that, wow, I didn't see you had an army there, or, you know, something like that. Wow, there's a navy. Because I think he thought he was the only one, and I thought he was talking to me. I was like, yeah, but it's only small. And he was like, I wasn't even talking about yours. Now I can see what he meant. There we go. That city there is not going to survive this. And one of these navy yards is going to go down as well. There we go. One big explosion from that city. The commandos have taken control over this section of the map. Daz is being squeezed pretty hard by both me and Barracuda. And Daz is trying to build in the north up here. He's trying to take over some land. He's got a town set up. This is to try and stabilize his future if he's got one. And they're a bit safer. I'd say this one's the safest in the forest with some stealth. But I am going to try and kick him out of this section with a force over here. And the force is coming in through this section as well. Now I've got loads of anti-air. But unfortunately, Daz doesn't have an airfield anymore. So I probably should have just stopped building it. I think I overinvested in Sam. And there we go. We've got some tanks on the move now. So Barracuda is not only on the hunt for Daz's stuff, he is going for Paul's now. I think he's going to leave Daz alone. He's going to just control this section, stop at this choke point. But Paul has decided to pick a fight with Daz as well, which is unfortunate for Daz because he needs this location. He's pretty much been attacked by everyone on the map at this point. I know Paul's attack wasn't much, but considering what he's facing up against, he's literally spent what he can against Daz. And at this point we've got a navy force coming in here. They're going to probably take this location here to defend with. Now the tanks over here are easily going to try and take these SAM units out and pretty much make short work of it. But as you can see, the defensive line here is being filled up pretty much by double, triple, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. I think he likes this location as defense, so he's just going to keep it like that. Going through this location would be hard to attack, so he's just going to keep it there for defense, and it's going to swing his forces around this location here instead. As you can see, he's taking the defensive lines off, and he's pushing his units straight through here. I think I'd have deleted this line and just sent them through this part, and maybe on a longer journey round. But the tanks are tearing through this section, and I think that's what their plan is, to destroy all the defenses. And the air units come in, but these are not good at taking out ground units. These are for anti-air, so they're not going to do a lot of good against these tanks, but he's doing everything he can to stop them. Whereas at this point the commandos are pushing through, trying to see what Daz actually has. And the commandos are doing a good job at taking out some stuff around. I don't know if they can take on this many SAM units, especially as they're distracted by the structure in the area. But they're going to do their best. They stray off now to try and target the industry up in this section. And the SAM units are just going to stick around and defend this location here right now. Down in the south, Daz does have control over this choke point here, as he's trying to push through, but I don't think he's going to get through. He's got a lot of SAM, but they're not going to be very useful. So I put mine against the water here so that they can defend against any bombers that keep coming through but are no longer there. Which is unfortunate. If I didn't respond to that air force, I might have actually had a better chance of winning this. So, my forces are going through the forest here, pushing against Daz at just the right moment, because he's dealing with these commandos here and making it a lot easier for me to push through. Up in the north though, Paul is feeling the pressure. Though he is attacking this location, Barracuda is... There is only a couple of SAM there. These helicopters could probably take those out. Over here we do see an overwhelming force of artillery. They are up against a few tanks, but with the amount of artillery here, it will not take them long to take out those tanks. And down in this section, Daz is building up some infantry, and these are going to just stray through this way, and they're going to keep up a good amount of pressure against me. Now my units are coming in through the north here. They're going to take out some structures, which is good for me. I didn't realize how much pressure Daz was under at this point in the game. The commandos are coming through once again, but instead now going south. My missile ships can kind of see what's going on over there. But I do destroy my, yeah, there you go, my Navy Yard. I destroy it because I don't need it anymore. They've achieved their goal. They will stop DAS from building any eco there. But he is now going for some eco up in the north as well. We're getting a town up, and he'll probably go for those industries and a city not long after. Barracuda's forces are slowly progressing through this section of the map. And both players have a significant force at their disposal. Barracuda's is definitely a bit higher, but if Paul switches, maybe going into helicopters, and gets these tanks to move across in this sort of direction from the top, instead of straight through the middle of all the artillery, but they are distracting the artillery for quite a long time, so I suppose they're still doing a lot of damage. Over here, my forces have torn through Daz, and I've pretty much destroyed him over here, and I do have some forces up here still. And it took me a while to realise, but Daz actually has a couple of units taken away from my territories too. So thanks for that, Daz. His artillery moved towards my missile ships. I do want to keep them because they're good anti-air. But my point now is to go into eco because, well, if I'm going to win this game, I'm going to need a lot of it. And I definitely do this a little too late. I'm a bit too cautious when I'm ecoing. But now, as you can see, Paul is taking a battering, but he is also dealing as good as he's getting. So over here we got some artillery, and they're destroying this. Barracuda's army was a lot larger than this, so both armies have diminished from this fight. The only difference is Barracuda's getting a lot more reinforcements in, and even confident enough to start taking out this location here. As you can see, the artillery moving through the mountains, and most of this is infantry, so they will get taken out by the artillery. But if Paul notices and starts trying to rush, that is his best chance there to try and stop the attack going on over there. Daz is now interested in what's going on and is moving in against the fight, getting some extra territories, which any territory is going to be useful to him right now, especially as these commandos are moving in against him from the north. I'm moving in from the south. We've got some commandos moving in again here as well, as Barracuda brings them across the ocean. I'm mostly focused on this area here so I can stop anything coming in from that direction and keep my attention in the north. I've got quite a lot of SAM units now. I really needed to stop producing those, and I needed to keep them on the front lines. Over here, it looks like Barracuda is taking out Paul over there, and we do have some infantry digging in against Daz that's trying to come through the north here. I think Daz realizes what's going on between Paul and Barracuda. Unfortunately for Paul and Barracuda, not Barracuda, and Daz has to retreat because Barracuda is absolutely destroying Paul now. And there isn't going to be too much longer where Paul is going to be able to hold off here. Over in this section of the map, me and Daz are fighting it out again. There isn't much for Daz to defend here, but he does have his artillery here, which are destroying these two that decide to focus on this one little man over there, who does finally go down. These guys' objective is to take out the structure at the minute, and I do start building up some air force in this direction here, along with building up my eco. I do end up pushing some forces through over there, trying to get this SAM off guard. And it looks like Barracuda is bringing over some air forces into this section as well to try and protect his commandos from landing. Though he does have one over here, but it looks like Daz even spots that and is doing his best to hold them off. And two random commandos have taken this land here. Up in the north though, Paul is losing this fight. Unfortunately, it's not going to go well for him right now. There isn't really much he can do either, so if we look through Paul's point of view, he hasn't got a lot of eco. He hasn't got enough to sustain the production of his structures right now. Though he has turned off these infantry, otherwise he would be spending them. He's focused pretty much solely on artillery production. and tanks. But it looks like the forces are slowly moving forward. And at this point, they're doing a very good job. They're going to take out this airfield and these structures here. And there isn't really much Paul can do about it right now. Daz is taking advantage of the distraction. He's building a city over here, which will boost his economy quite a lot. He did have a city, and at this point, he doesn't have too much else going on, so he really needs to have some eco in the map. Now, he does set up a curved path here, which unfortunately, because they're infantry, they're not going to do much against me. My artillery are going to do a lot of damage against him, though. And I do end up moving my strikers out this direction right now. So they're going to have a lot more reach, and I might be able to do stuff a bit more with them now. Over in this section of the map, Barracuda is spreading out, pretty much just expanding at this point, and Paul has even decided to try and defend this structure. And we do have quite a few SAM units here, so I don't think any air units are going to be able to take out those structures, not anytime soon. But as the forces move around, they do swing around. These guys have been kind of forgotten about. I'm sure Barracuda will bring them in soon. And the tank is trying to rush through, but he's on his own, so there isn't really much he can do. And if I remember, Barracuda was focused on getting in down here. He's got some cruisers there that just can't reach these structures. And the infantry do seem to have been overwhelming my forces as they keep pushing through. But the artillery are trying to take over some territory as they're doing this. Up in the north here, me and Daz are fighting out. He's set up a defensive line right here, which is a bit concerning because I did want to get this to a city, but I just couldn't do it. Not anytime soon, so I do get a nuke, because you know what I'm like. If things are taking too long, I'll build a nuke. And there we go. I've got pretty much the last industry there. Got 1, 2... Oh yeah, I couldn't get this one into a city because there is a industry there. You can see the line is moving this way. It took me ages to figure this out. And I've got a line here going into the forest, so I couldn't build that into a city until I took over this land here, which is a bit awkward, I think. But anyway, so I decided to try and focus on this one, and I really wanted to get it out there. I do end up pushing Daz back, so that does make me feel a bit better. But I didn't quite know the position that Daz was in at the time. And I certainly didn't know the position Paul was in either. Barracuda is pushing quite heavily against him from all angles, even over here. And whilst that's happening, Paul is slowly being squeezed out of existence. Barracuda is trying to hold this choke point here. He knows what he wants to do here, get a city going. And to do that, he needs to control this choke point here, which would be very easy for him with the amount of navy that he's got there. So I bring my units in to try and take on the town that I can see just straight over the top of Daz's units. He doesn't seem to have any anti-air, so I'm doing the same strategy he did against me from the beginning of this game, where he's using air units. And I do manage to take that structure out. He does switch into SAM though, because he needs to fight with the SAM units. I have way too much SAM. I would have given him them, but you know, I didn't want him using them against me. Over here it does look like he's building up a substantial force. One unit managed to get through, but he's being taken care of now. So I do have to kind of pull back. I don't know if I realised that soon enough. Over here, once again, I should have pulled back earlier and just let my units build up for a little while. And I do spot this barracks over here, and I'm trying to get my units to go over that way to take it out. Paul is still holding on by the skin of his teeth. There isn't much left of him, but he does have everything in place, still trying to defend, but he has lost this one all the way out here, so now it's just this small section of the map that he controls. On the other hand of it, Barracuda is pushing up in this direction, straight towards Daz. He wants to see what Daz's response will be. Sorry, I do keep yawning. But yeah, I got my rocket being built. It's just started really, and then we've got some strikers there to defend it, and there is an interceptor in this as well. There's actually 3. But over here, it does just look like my artillery are not doing a very good job there to try and build up numbers. Up in the top, I do manage to take out that barracks over there. And I do manage to kick him out, so I do know where his units are going to be. Over here, though, Paul is losing ground pretty fast. He's on fire, and he's okay about it for now, but he's not going to be happy when he loses. But unfortunately, when you're fighting on multiple fronts in a free-for-all, it is the inevitability that most people are going to lose. Down here, Barracuda kind of wants to test out how far his ships can reach. Well, remember when I said earlier that I didn't realize you can cut across here? Well, I'm about to find out, I think. But Daz is under a lot of pressure right now as Barracuda is pushing his forces through this section. Just after defending against me and winning, to be fair. My air units come over and they do spot a lot of SAM units there, so I just pull him back and let him defend. I build a second nuclear silo, rocket silo. Paul has a lot of eco right now, and he just can't spend it anywhere. As Barracuda pulls away his units, I don't even think Paul has any territory left. Oh, he's got this one here. So Paul is out of territories as soon as that one goes, and you can lose through either territory loss or structure lost. I don't actually know which one's going to happen first right now. Over here, Barracuda is pretty much fighting a defense, but that's it. He's not getting shot back. Daz really needs to take this off and just send him forward, unless he has something to follow it up with. Over here, it looks like he's going to lose all his structures first. And Paul is now going to be out of the game. There we go. So that is another player gone. So from my perspective, I am trying to build up some forces here. Fight against Daz still, because I don't really know what's going on the other side of the map. And Daz is pretty much trying to defend from me here. And he's got to worry about this section of the map, but I've been distracting him too long. I think he completely misses it. Over here, the majority of Barracuda's forces are coming through, and they are still reinforcing this location. But Daz doesn't want to take off this defense right now. He really needs to try and pull back some of these units. I think Daz might have been at AFK for a little bit at the end here. I can't remember if that's true or not. So I've got my strikers trying to take out what's on the ground here before I push my forces through, because I kind of want to see what's going on there. Let's have a look at the eco, as pretty much 2 players are out now. So I've got 1,500 from Barracuda. I have 1,400 somehow. And Daz has 700, which is unfortunate for him. I would have been happy if I just don't end up burst one out, to be honest. But I certainly want to make sure that I am as high as possible on the list of winners, even if I can't win the whole game. So we'll have to see if Daz can survive long enough, or if Barracuda actually can push against me, which I think, judging by the forces coming through the north over here, he's going to be able to sweep across this section quite easily. My strikers are on the move once again. They're just going to clear up some of the area here, supporting my army. And they're going to do a pretty good job, but Daz doesn't even try and defend from the attacking force coming through the top here. I do have a rocket that's ready now, so that rocket can be fired. And I have more than enough energy to fire it, so I think I'm just saving it for the right moment. As you can see, Daz still has this defensive line set up with a lot of units against me, but I'm just waiting for the right time to attack, which is going to take a while. And Barracuda is setting up one long line to push forward with. Over here it looks like Barracuda is pushing his forces forward, ignoring these structures here, and he's going straight for this city here. So I think they must be on some form of strike command. I can't see it written down on the ground, but I think that's what they're on. But that city has now gone. And Daz is still bringing some units in here. He's got some commandos, but they aren't actually connected to any line. My rocket is being sent forward. I think my air unit spotted this army here, and I just wanted to catch it off guard, but unfortunately the amount of SAM there and missile ships were able to destroy it before it happened. However, I'm just going to point out, from my perspective, it actually blew up. I think it was kind of like that last split frame. The rocket actually did end up blowing up on my screen, but it didn't take anything out. So I think I decided to fire my second rocket because I thought it was destroyed. I thought it actually succeeded in taking that out. And I was firing my second rocket a bit further into it, just to explain what I saw was going on. Yeah, there's my second rocket. I have some air units coming into this section as well to try and potentially let them through. But unfortunately the SAM units do just take out my air units way too fast because there is a ton of SAM. But that rocket still does not land. It gets shot down before it even goes off. I don't even think any rockets actually managed to land in this game, which is surprising, especially as there's 2 silos built. Daz has realised what's going on now. I think he's come back from AFK. I don't know if he was, but he's trying to fend off against Barracuda. And I am pushing through in this section now as I see the defense fall, so I'm taking the opportunity where I can. As I can see, Barracuda's decided he's going to go around the bottom here and check out what I've done. So, yeah, if I had thought you could get to this location by sea, I probably wouldn't have built so close to it. Up in the north section here, I switch focus from Daz to Barracuda, which doesn't really change much for me. I end up keeping the exact same position. The enemy just changes colour. Up in the north though, you can see a huge swarm of units coming through. Now that's a good place to use a rocket. There we go, got quite a few units coming in. I did spot them sneaking through the bottom of the map, so I sent in some air units just to try and see what was going on. I was hoping that I could catch them off, but unfortunately there's quite a few there with anti-air. And when a few of mine are anti-air, they're not really going to be able to destroy the ships very well. But they are going to act like meat shields for me. So Barracuda's got his vehicles or his ships coming in through this section, and they're trying to take over this town with the docks. Over here they're trying to defend from Daz, who manages to fight through a little bit, but now it's my turn to try and push through once again. And over here there isn't really much else I could have done in this section apart from fire the nuke up north. But otherwise, Daz has complete control over that section of the map. So as you can see, he already has more control over the map than anybody else right now. Let's have a look at my eco. I got 1,500. Daz has 290, which to be fair isn't much of a surprise, he has been sandwiched. And Barracuda has 1,800, so he is exploding in economy right now. And this would be extremely hard for me to try and come back from. But Daz is holding on to dear life with a navy yard and a barracks right there. And Barracuda is still bringing in units from this section of the map all the way across to here. And they are just filling up this line more, well, faster than I can destroy it, really. Up over here we have a large group of units, which I was able to hold back quite well. However, he's brought in his cruisers into the side here to try and take out any advantage that I may have had. Down here it looks like he's pushing in through here, and those commandos that I probably couldn't see very well are going to take out these artillery pretty quickly. My rocket does fire, and I do aim up into this section of the map. I bring down my units away from the area. And Barracuda does lose some units. It looks like I was wrong. A rocket does go off in this game. But unfortunately for me, he did pull back some of his units. If I could have held them all off there, that would have been a really good hit. Down here it looks like I am progressing actually quite well for once. So I may be able to take control over this south part of the map. And I have another rocket being sent off somewhere. I'll have to see where that ends up going. It does fly over quite a lot of SAM units, and it does hit the ground. Ah, you see what I mean? The rocket actually blew up, but it didn't destroy anything. That's what I was on about earlier when it hit here. Anyway, I still spread out my units across like this. I need to defend here and here. And those ships are quite annoying as well, but I could have probably left those, at least for a while. So Barracuda is pushing up quite nicely in this section of the map. He's got quite a few transport boats as well, which is how we managed to get this going and try and stop my defensive line. And now Barracuda has a city on this location. And I pretty much have all of this territory here. But it looks like I am slowly pushing them back over here. We've got a lot of SAM units. But my artillery are making good progress through these forces on the front lines. And as we can see, we do have some transport boats moving down here. They are going to cut across into this section and reinforce over there. The helicopters do move south, and there's not much I can do about that apart from use the interceptors. I could bring these SAM around though. That's probably something I should have done. But there's also quite a lot of helicopters, and I assume that if I just leave them there, that might be quite helpful at taking out the helicopters. So I stop the lines, and they're going to just build up in this section, and then I'll probably do something with them in a bit. Barracuda, on the other hand, is still trying to bring in units. I do manage to somehow stop this large force coming through here, mostly with a rocket. But Barracuda is just way ahead of me in economy, and I can't even build it up because I need this tiny industry here that it wouldn't let me get, so I can put a city on this location here. It was just a bit awkward. It took me ages to figure that out. I couldn't believe that. Over here, anyway, I forgot. These ships have actually managed to take out my airfield, my town, my docks over here, and maybe even a couple of other things. And they are at this choke point here, so they're just going to keep shooting everything that walks through. So everything's going to be damaged before it even gets to where I want it to be. I do have 2 rockets being built. One's ready. And up here we have just a couple of units holding off this front line. And the helicopters are moving in as well, which is unfortunate for me because I don't really have enough SAM in this location. I got 1. But I could just try and bring these guys up, but I don't. I'm too worried that he's going to then bring the helicopters into the south section. And down here it looks like I can turn off my build-up phase, and I'm just going in for any and every unit in the game. Just going straight down towards this, whatever I have, to try and hold them back. Okay, there's a rocket being fired. I thought I heard that. Now where is this one going? Because there's quite a few SAM units right there. It does blow up though, or does it? It visually blows up, but doesn't do any damage once again. I think this is the one where I saw the things blow up, but it didn't work, and I send this one right on through to the middle of this section. But they ain't gonna make it through all those SAMs that I thought were gone. Unfortunately. Anyway, at this point, I knew I was pretty much at a loss in this game. So I'm just gonna speed it up by ×4. Because there's me here, and I knew Daz was somewhere. And I did not want to be third. Not in a game this big that lasted so long. So I didn't want to end up being the next one out in this game, because Barracuda didn't worry too much until now. I've just said it. He does take out the ships, but after that he just leaves them and lets them build up again. And we might take him out in a bit. But Barracuda was more worried about me than he was about Daz, so I had to kind of do something about that, because I didn't want to be third. I wanted to be second at least. I knew I could do that, you see. But a rocket does come over, it takes out my town. I actually completely forgot about that rocket. Now I fire my rockets, both of them, down into this section to hit both of them. Now Daz has been defeated. And all my air units get destroyed by the SAM, and the match is ended. Barracuda was the one that won this free-for-all game, and quite rightly so. Look at his eco gain in this game. His empire value is way above everyone's, all the way back from this point here. And to be fair, my eco is pretty equal at this point. So yeah, he broke away from me at that point there. So I don't know if there's any other values you'd like me to look at. Let's have a look at army upkeep on land. So his army upkeep was kind of insane, to be fair. As was mine, but it just wasn't enough to deal with what he had. Anyway, there are 2 videos on screen right now. Let me know what you want to see in other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in one of those.